Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. The death toll in Texas has sadly risen to at least 91 people. According to Fox News, we have the latest update for you in today's show. Also, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt issued a blistering rebuke yesterday to Democrats and media figures who she says are falsely blaming President Donald Trump for the mounting death toll from the catastrophic flash flooding in Texas. We have those details as well. And finally, a prominent Houston pediatrician has been fired after making flood comments that have sparked outrage. Her comments, they got what they voted for. Trump derangement syndrome cost her her job. Axios reported yesterday that frustration among Democrat voters is reaching a fever pitch, with some constituents expressing a willingness to embrace civil unrest in response to what they see as their party's inability to counter President Donald Trump's sweeping agenda. Now imagine that. Democrats storming the Capitol? I guess it would be okay for them to do it. And State GOP Chairman Drew McKissick joins us to talk about California Governor Gavin Newsom's visit to the Palmetto State this week, and another governor who will be in the state later in the fall.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt issued one of her blistering rebukes yesterday to Democrats and some of the media who just can't help themselves, and they are blaming President Trump for the rising death toll in this horrible, horrible situation out of Texas. At least 91 people have died so far in what has become one of the worst natural disasters in recent Texas history. Search crews still working to locate missing students. Families, of course, praying for a safe return of their children. Young counselors, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds missing as well. But Ms. Leavitt insisted that turning the tragedy into a political fight dishonors the victims and misrepresents the facts.
I want to start by addressing the devastation from the tragic flash floods in Texas. Moments ago, the Department of Homeland Security provided an update that 91 innocent souls have now perished. Everyone here at the White House, including the President of the United States, is praying for the victims' families and friends during this unimaginable time. President Trump swiftly signed a major disaster declaration for Kerr County, Texas, to ensure our heroic first responders have every resource they need in the relief and recovery efforts. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem traveled to Texas over the weekend, and the entire Trump administration is working hand in glove with state and local officials to provide every assistance available. The situation on the ground remains dangerous, and there could be additional public safety threats with potential incoming heavy rain. So we encourage everyone in the area to remain vigilant, listen to all warnings, and respond accordingly. Unfortunately, in the wake of this once-in-a-generation natural disaster, we have seen many falsehoods pushed by Democrats such as Senator Chuck Schumer and some members of the media. Blaming President Trump for these floods is a depraved lie, and it serves no purpose during this time of national mourning. Here are the facts. In the lead up to this tragic natural disaster, the National Weather Service did its job. Despite unprecedented rainfall, the National Weather Service executed timely and precise forecasts and warnings. On July 3rd, the National Weather Service office in Austin, San Antonio, Texas, conducted forecast briefings for emergency management in the morning and issued a flood watch in the early afternoon. Flash flood warnings were also issued on the night of July 3rd and in the early morning of July 4th, giving preliminary lead times of more than 3 hours before flash flooding conditions occurred. And the National Weather Service office in New Braunfels, which delivers forecasts for Austin, San Antonio, and the surrounding areas, had extra staff on duty during the storms, despite claims of the contrary. So to any person who has deliberately lied about these facts surrounding this catastrophic event, you should be deeply ashamed. At this time, the administration's focus will be giving the victims and their communities the support they deserve during these recovery efforts in this tragic time. May God bless the great people of Texas, especially the parents who have lost their children. President Trump loves you. We are praying for you, and he will be traveling to see you later this week.
Look, this is a far stretch for even the Democrats to try to blame Donald Trump for this natural disaster. Nobody could see this coming. There's nothing Trump could have done about it anyway, had he known what was going to happen. Ms. Leavitt singled out Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer for spreading what she called falsehoods about staffing shortages and emergency preparedness at the National Weather Service, which plays, of course, a central role in forecasting and issuing flood alerts. Leavitt laid out a detailed timeline to defend the Trump administration's response and the National Weather Service's performance, asserting that weather officials issued accurate and timely alerts before the floodwaters overwhelmed communities across Kerr County, Texas. She said, in the lead up to this tragic national disaster, the National Weather Service did its job. Despite unprecedented rainfall, the National Weather Service executed timely and precise forecasts and warnings. Again, if you've watched, there's a video circulating online. It's a time lapse of these floodwaters. And if you've watched that, it's amazing how quickly this happened. And again, I don't know that anyone could have done anything differently. Unfortunately, these young ladies, the whole camp, they were asleep. Now, yes, maybe if there was a better early warning system, but it was a natural disaster. And unfortunately, people lost their lives. It's very sad, and I pray for those families. Leavitt cited a flood watch issued for the region on July the 3rd, along with press briefings, updates that gave communities advance notice of the risk of a flood. Flash flood warnings followed later that night and into early hours of July the 4th, providing, according to Ms. Leavitt, more than 3 hours of preliminary lead time before flash flood conditions occurred. I mean, again, we're not pointing fingers here because people lost their lives. And some of this can be sorted out later. Let's support the first responders. Let's support people who are trying to help in a continued search and recovery mode here, and help these families. Then we can figure out what to do in the future that might prevent this from happening again. You always learn. Meteorologists say that the flooding was driven by a rare, slow-moving storm system that dumped several inches of rain in just a few hours, far exceeding the capacity of local rivers and creeks in the area. Now, in wake of the disaster, Senator Schumer called for a federal probe into vacant roles within the Texas branch of the Weather Service, particularly warning coordination positions, he said. He argued that those positions are vital for communicating risk to the public and coordinating evacuation orders with local emergency managers. While Schumer has not directly called Trump's name for causing the flood, some Democrats have questioned whether underfunding or failure to fill critical National Weather Service roles contributed to a slower or less effective response. Again, it appears that the National Weather Service issued the warnings like they normally would. Nobody knew it was going to happen this quickly. Those campers and the adults who were there, the man who had been the director of this camp for many years, cited as a hero trying to save people, they went to bed that night, not realizing what was about to hit. at 4 a.m. or so. Ms. Leavitt, of course, dismissed the concerns, as you heard, calling it what it is, politics. Chuck Schumer trying to take this national disaster, this very sad situation out of Texas to try to turn it on Donald Trump. And this is just a response from Schumer on a topic I'm going to talk about a little later in today's show, where a number of national political or Democrat political operatives are saying that they're hearing from within their party that people are so restless by seeing the big, beautiful bill pass and some of the other accomplishments of the Trump administration that they're potentially ready to go to civil unrest. In other words, more protest that could lead to violence. That's how the Democrats operate. Now, they'll potentially storm the Capitol, and it'll be okay for them to do it. It'll be okay for Democrats because in their mind, it'll just be peaceful protest trying to save the world, save the country from Donald Trump. While these families are mourning the loss of their loved ones. The death toll from the flooding has risen daily. Kerr County officials confirming widespread devastation at sites including Camp Mystique, this popular Christian summer retreat. And it's just sad to see some of the reports. You see some of the images of these young ladies in their white dresses, full of life, smiles, group photos, ready for the summer, and it ends so tragically. And again, we have to take the politics out of this. Shame on the Democrats for pointing fingers when we need to be praying for these families. Joey Hudson here. America is facing a health crisis, and the answer isn't more meds. I lost over 30 pounds on the PhD weight loss plan without Ozempic or any weight loss shots. Don't settle for a lifetime of medication. GLP-1 injections like Ozempic help some people lose weight, but they come with side effects, high cost, and most gain it back when they stop. At PhD Weight Loss, we reveal Big Pharma's big secret. Your body already makes GLP-1, the appetite-fighting hormone. Our program helps your body make it naturally so you'll drop the pounds faster. With the PhD method, no side effects, no long-term risk, no rebound weight gain, just natural, lasting results, all without hunger or cravings. Right now, get a free body scan and personalized metabolic assessment. Discover your body's true potential without a shot. It's free and gives you the keys to your personalized plan. Do like I did and don't trade your health for a quick fix. Call now at 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com, myphdweightloss.com. One more story out of Texas. I know we've talked a lot about the story of the flooding and these young children and some adults, counselors losing their life. And it's a huge national story, of course. But it's also shown us just how divisive our political climate is. When you have, as I mentioned earlier in the show today, Democrats who are blaming President Trump, Chuck Schumer, leading the effort. Well, there's a story out of Houston of a prominent pediatrician who has been fired after a now viral Facebook post appeared to mock victims of the catastrophic Texas floods, including dozens of children based on their political beliefs. Dr. Christina Probst, who practiced at Bluefish Pediatrics, faced swift backlash after a disparaging post circulated widely online. In it, she seemed to suggest that residents of flood-ravaged Kerr County, many of whom who voted for President Donald Trump, were getting what they deserved. This is shameful. The doctor allegedly wrote the now deleted post shared under the name of Christina, saying Kerr County MAGA voted to gut FEMA. They deny climate change. May they get what they voted for. Bless their hearts. Now, I don't know if she thought she was being funny or what, but this is not the time for these types of posts. The comment was posted as floodwaters swept across central Texas, claiming, again, we're as of this morning, 91 lives, devastating communities in Kerr County, including the Camp Mystique in Hunt, Texas, where over a dozen children have died. The message ended with a chilling distinction. May all visitors, children, non-MAGA voters, and pets be safe and dry. Now, within hours of posting and gaining some attention on it. It was shared by libs of TikTok and other high-profile social media accounts. Bluefish Pediatrics announced that Dr. Probst had been suspended, and then the practice confirmed that she had been terminated. Bluefish said in a statement, "We strongly condemn the comments that were made in that post. We do not support or condone any statement that politicizes tragedy, diminishes human dignity, or fails to clearly uphold compassion for every child and family, regardless of background or beliefs." Good for them. Kudos to them that they step up, take responsibility, and denounce one of their doctors. The practice also removed Dr. Prost's bio from its website. Her profile was deleted from the Memorial Hermann Health System's affiliated directory, though she was not directly employed by the hospital system. It also issued a statement disavowing the post. In the hospital post, it said, "We have zero tolerance for such rhetoric which does not reflect the mission, vision, or values of our system." As you can imagine, the post ignited outrage across the political spectrum, with many slamming the doctor for using a natural disaster, which again has claimed a number of lives, including, sadly, children, to make a political point. One user posted on X, "Please tell us this person is not allowed anywhere near patients in Texas." Another added, tagging the Bluefish Pediatrics, "The ethics, humanity, and empathy illustrated here is unfathomable." Even the Texas Medical Board weighed in. While the board has not launched a formal investigation, its president, Dr. Sharif Zafan, posted, "There is no place for politicization. The entire focus needs to be on looking for survivors. Any complaints we may receive will be thoroughly investigated." As of yesterday, Dr. Probst appeared to have changed her Facebook username and profile image. Her original post, however, had already been captured in screenshots and widely shared, fueling continued criticism. And this is just another lesson. When you post something, I don't care how quickly you delete it, it's probably going to show up. Once you post it, you got to consider it's there forever. Somebody's going to grab it. There's software that can go back in time. This doctor let her political beliefs outweigh her common sense. And I'm sorry she's lost her job, but she deserved it, didn't she? The backlash came, of course, as communities across Central Texas, especially in Kerr County, continued to respond to these historic floods. Again, 91 people so far. One survivor recalled writing names on the arms of campers in case they were swept away. Parents from across the state have descended on the area, some still awaiting word on whether their children were among the victims. That had to be a horrible, horrible situation. And to have a pediatrician post something like she did, again, she deserves to lose her job. President Trump is expected to visit Texas later this week, probably on Friday. Officials have called the floods a 100-year event with record rainfall and river surges wiping out roads, cabins, and entire neighborhoods. It's just like we saw here in the Carolinas with Hurricane Helene last year. Again, there's no place for politics in a natural disaster like this. You have debates over climate policy, disaster response, federal aid. These are long-standing fixtures in American politics. Many say Dr. Post crossed a line by invoking the victim's political leanings, especially when so many of the dead were children. The doctor's defenders have been few, and her silence in the aftermath has only fueled speculation and anger, of course. As of today or last night, she's not issued any public statement or apology. Meanwhile, Bluefish Pediatrics has sought to distance itself from the controversy, reaffirming its commitment to compassionate care and insisting that the comments do not reflect the values of the organization. And again, good for them. More chaos in Los Angeles. A federal immigration enforcement operation in the heart of Los Angeles triggered heated confrontations yesterday as agents with U.S. Border Patrol, Homeland Security investigations, backed by National Guard troops, conducted a raid in the heavily immigrant Westlake neighborhood near MacArthur Park. Now, the targeted operation, which is part of President Trump's aggressive immigration enforcement agenda, and with the passage of the big, beautiful bill More funding is going to go to operations like this. It's focused on an area known for a large Hispanic population and influence from the MS-13 gang. It's a bad side of Los Angeles. Social media lit up yesterday with images of federal agents on horseback moving through the park, staging near residential blocks, drawing crowds of protesters, and a high-profile political showdown. These people would rather resist these law enforcement officers and try to protect people here illegally simply because President Trump has made it a mainstay of his second administration to continue his efforts to secure our border and to deport people who are here illegally. They don't want to admit it, though. They want to push back because it's Trump's agents. Even the mayor, Karen Bass, a longtime critic of federal immigration crackdowns, she appeared on site demanding that the raid be halted. In a very heated exchange, she spoke with Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino, who, of course, rebuffed her request. Bovino later told Fox News, "I don't work for Karen Bass. Better get used to us now because this is going to be normal very soon. We'll go anywhere, anytime we want in Los Angeles." And good for him. And again, his agency just got a little extra money to do this now, to hire more agents. So I got a feeling that Mayor Bass is going to see more federal agents in Los Angeles in the coming months. At the scene, the mayor called the action unacceptable, denounced what she described as a dangerous escalation by federal authorities. Well, look, Mayor, you need to have your police officers out there helping. If you don't want to see an escalation, get your officers out there helping and put a stop to this. End it right now. Protesters quickly filled the streets around MacArthur Park, we're told. Some video released from body cam shows protesters doing what they do, resisting federal officers. Some confronted agents directly, while others threw objects and run and hid. They slashed a tire on a federal vehicle. Authorities confirmed minor property damage, but fortunately no injuries yesterday. Photos showed federal agents clearly identified as police, U.S. Border Patrol, and HSI, had it on their uniforms. They were in full riot gear near park benches, picnic areas where families had gathered just hours earlier, but it's got to be done. One agent said on background, not wanting his name to be released, "We're here to do a job and we'll continue. This isn't political. This is about law enforcement." And that's the attitude they have because that's the truth. It is about law enforcement. It's about protecting American citizens, even citizens of Los Angeles who don't agree with it. The optics of this sort of military-style immigration enforcement in a major U.S. city, of course, has triggered sharp criticism from California officials. Maybe this is a question for Governor Gavin Newsom as he's parading around in South Carolina this week on why he doesn't want to assist and help federal agents make his state safer. If any of you are going to some of the greeting ceremonies for Governor Newsom, see if you can get that question in for us. This latest Axios report is pretty extreme even for Democrats. I mean, let's go back a few years at the outrage that the Democrats had about January 6th. And again, let me preface this by saying some things got out of hand on January the 6th. Most people, though, were just innocently going to the Capitol. The doors were open. They walked in. Those who damaged property, those who did, in fact, attack officers, Capitol Police, they should have been punished. But there were more innocent people there just showing their freedom of protest, freedom of speech, than the bad guys. But the Democrats would have you believe that everybody who walked up those steps that day, everybody who's basically in the mall, were guilty of treason and that they should be in jail. Fast forward to now. President Trump back in the Oval Office. He's making headway on the promises that he made during the campaign last year. The big, beautiful bill just passed. Democrats are about to lose their mind. And according to Axios, the frustration among Democrat voters is reaching what they called a fever pitch, with some constituents expressing a willingness to embrace civil unrest in response to what they see as their party's inability to counter President Donald Trump's sweeping agenda. So in other words, we sat back over the last 4 years and watched Joe Biden damage our country with some things that are not very soon going to be repairable. Some things it's going to take a long time to recover from. President Trump is trying his best, along with a slim majority in both the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate, to counteract and to reverse some of the damage that Joe Biden did. And he's doing it at a breakneck speed. And the Democrats are seeing this. And they're losing their mind. So what do they want to do? What's their answer? I guess storm the Capitol. More than 24 Democrat members of the House, many speaking anonymously, described a volatile mood taking hold across liberal enclaves, from online communities to in-person town halls. According to the lawmakers, explanations that Democrats simply lack the votes to stop the Trump administration's policies are falling on deaf ears. The fact that the Republicans are in control and doing what more than a majority of people in the U.S. wanted President Trump to do, that's not enough. So what are they going to do? Representative Brad Snyder, a Democrat from Illinois, one of the few members who was willing to openly talk about it to Fox News, said, we've got people who are desperately wanting us to do something. No matter what we say, they want more. The comments show, of course, a party base that is very disillusioned with the traditional political process, and they're driven by what one lawmaker described as Roman Colosseum, a mentality, more spectacle, more resistance, and for some, even violence. In other words, like the old, you sat in a Roman Colosseum and you watched the fights till somebody died. One lawmaker told Axios that their constituents have begun to embrace the notion that civility isn't working and that Democrats should be ready for confrontation, even physical confrontation. The lawmaker reportedly said of the messages that they were receiving on a regular basis via phone calls, via mail, being emails, Facebook, other social media posts, there needs to be blood to grab the attention of the press and the public. So they're calling for bloodshed. They're calling for violence. Another described being urged to storm the White House, while yet another said they had been told to prepare to get shot for the cause of resisting Trump's policies. This is scary stuff, folks, because some of those idiots in the Democrat Party will do this. I mean, we have watched some of the protests over the years. And some of those same liberal loonies that we've seen on the nightly news who've been taking over Oregon and some of these other liberal cities, these are the same people who are talking about being willing to get shot to resist President Trump. The most aggressive comments, according to one member, often come from what he describes as economically very secure white people, adding an unsettling racial and class dynamic to the conversation, he said. In other words, some of these liberal white people, they have the money and they should have know better. They're not dumb people, but they think that it's an option to storm the White House, to potentially shed blood, take a bullet for the cause. Some Democrats kind of compared this as from frustration to fury. Heated political rhetoric. It's not new. What alarms these lawmakers, and the reason they're speaking out, is the shift from exasperation to something much darker. The demands now are not just for symbolic protests or fiery speeches. They're for personal risk. People who want to publicly disrupt what's going on, civil disobedience that crosses legal lines. It's not just a First Amendment freedom now. One representative said, what I've seen is a demand that we get ourselves arrested intentionally or allow ourselves to be victims of violence. A lawmaker recalled offering a message of de-escalation during a community discussion, saying, when they light a fire, my thought is grab an extinguisher. The response, he said, have you tried gasoline? Wow. Throw gasoline on the fire. And that's the mentality of some of these people, isn't it? This is like maybe going back to some of the violence in the 60s, the anti-war protest. The Democrats say that the rising pressure from their base as party leaders attempt to kind of walk a line between channeling the passion of their voters and preventing rhetoric from spiraling into dangerous territory that it may not work. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has continued to press forward with messaging bills and procedural efforts to slow or spotlight controversial Republican legislation, or what they call controversial. But the symbolic nature of those moves has failed. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries last week during the fight to finalize the big, beautiful bill tried everything he could. And look, the Democrats should give him credit for that. They can't blame Hakeem Jeffries because he tried every procedural stunt he could come up with, from requiring him to read all 900 pages publicly just to stall it. He knew it was going to pass, but anything he could do to stall it and to show his base that I guess he was trying. Several lawmakers acknowledged privately that the pressure is real and warned that it's getting harder and harder to contain. For many Democrat members, especially in the solid blue districts, anger from their base can translate into primary threats or social media fights, calling names. One member said, our own base is telling us that what we're doing is not good enough. They want confrontation. They want arrest. They want something to show we're not just sitting on our hands. Now, what do they think getting arrested is going to accomplish? What do they think violence, maybe destroying property, maybe during some of these confrontations with law enforcement, because law enforcement is going to do they're going to be there, they're going to do their job. So that means you're going to run the risk of law enforcement being potentially harmed. And what's it going to accomplish? Wow. This is why the American people turned on the radical Democrat Party last November, and they're not going to stand for this now. That's it for today's show. Tara's up next, followed by Mike Gallagher, Bill Frady, Charlie James. I'm back again tomorrow at 5 a.m. for your first cup of coffee in Sunrise, Carolina. Until then, folks, remember, God's got this. He's still in control. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Email's always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Joining us on our guest line, Chairman of the South Carolina Republican Party, Drew McKissick. All right, Mr. McKissick, where do you want to start today? We had President Trump signing the One Big Beautiful Bill on Friday. Congress delivered by the 4th of July, as the president had asked. We have a very special guest coming for a visit. Evidently, the South Carolina Democrat Party believes we need to hear some of California Governor Gavin Newsom's special tidbits of knowledge. And we have another governor coming for a visit, too. I'll let you give the details on that one. So what do you say we start with Mr. Newsom? Have you read the Democrat Party's letter on why he's coming? Let me read one sentence for you. The South Carolina Democrat Party is hitting the road in South Carolina. Next week, the party kicks off a multi-county on-the-road series with California Governor Gavin Newsom to connect directly with communities that have too often been overlooked by Republicans in power. Shame on you for overlooking South Carolinians.
Well, nothing says success like California, right? I mean, just look out in California. Number one, all the people that are leaving California and have been for years now because of the direction that state's been taking. California is the number one state in the country, according to U-Haul, for the most one-way trips out of state. Wow. And by the way, South Carolina is the number one state in the country, according to U-Haul, for the most one-way trips into state. There's a reason for all of this, and it's the policies, obviously, that is represented not just by the Democratic Party, but I'd say more particularly Gavin Newsom and his stripe. I think this is obviously, a move on the part of Newsom to try to put himself forward as a presidential candidate for Democrats in the next election, which is fine. If y'all want to come sell California here in South Carolina, that doesn't bother me in the least. Much less, also I'd say nationally, because again, we've seen its track record and, but it really speaks to how little they have to offer, how shallow their political bench is, quite frankly.
Well, but I'm confused here because according to the Democrats' letter here, Mr. Newsom delivered real results for working families. He launched California's largest state tax refund in American history. He's raised the minimum wage. He's expanded paid family leave. I mean, they have a whole list of things that he's done in California.
Well, just go out and say, I don't know, ask the folks in California how they feel about the economy in California. How do they feel about the government's ability to deal with things like fires, for instance, in Los Angeles, with their socialist mayor out there. We could go down a list of things that when it comes to economic freedom, when it comes to economic mobility, it has just been a disaster. California, basically the middle class has been hollowed out in California. You've got a disproportionate lower class folks on the bottom rung and lower rungs of the economic ladder. And then, just a huge number of folks up at the top, the billionaire class, if you will, the tech moguls, et cetera. Many of which, by the way, are moving to states with no income tax, or at least trying to establish residency there. But again, there's a reason for all this, and it's the type of policies that this party has promoted and is represented perfectly by Gavin Newsom. So if this is the best they think they can bring to the table, I say bring it.
Well, now, you said something a minute ago with me today, Drew McKissick, chairman of the South Carolina Republican Party. You talked about how South Carolina is the number one state for incoming. You don't think he's planning to move here, do you?
Oh, Lord, I hope not. I think he's still got, another year and a half on his term of governor in California. I dare say he would be maybe less than satisfied living in a conservative state like South Carolina. So I'm not worried about him coming here, but I expect he'll spend some time here, though, trying to sell his presidential ambition.
Yep. Well, I hear there's going to be some greeting parties scattered throughout the state, so it'll be interesting to watch. Of course, the big news, the big, beautiful bill signed on Friday as President Trump had asked by July the 4th. There were some times last week I wasn't sure they were going to make the deadline. What about you?
Well, yeah. I mean, anytime you're putting anything together that is this big, you've got, problems you have to overcome. And you've got a lot of different hands in the pot, a lot of different people that need to be satisfied. And the bigger it gets, the more things sometimes, as you know, that get attached to legislation that is what is termed must-pass legislation. It inevitably becomes a Christmas tree that everybody tries to put their present under. The big thing about, and don't get me wrong, there are definitely things in that bill that, are less than palatable, to put it charitably. And even the president admits, there's stuff in there we wish wasn't in there. But the main thing is the stuff that is in there. And that is, one, extending the tax cut. So we avoided having the biggest tax increase in American history. That's one, and that's helpful for one, keeping Republican and President Trump's campaign promises, but also helping continue to develop the economy. Two, you have the biggest and best border security bill in the history of the country is in that bill. The best energy development and security bill in the history of our country is in that bill.
Yep. All
these things are things that President Trump campaigned on. And those are the things that he needs to be seen by voters. Republicans need to be seen by voters as delivering on as we go into the next the midterm election. Now is the time, now that this is done, to pick up from here and go into the next budget negotiation and so forth, and then now work to begin to deliver on the spending cuts and the rescission packages and other things to cut back on a lot of the other waste and fraud in government that we know is there. We've documented is there.
Yep.
And that's now, in my opinion, that's the follow-up step.
Yep. Drew McKissick with me today. All right, one final thing here. We do have another governor coming to South Carolina. Talk with us about that visit.
Yes, sir, we do. We have Governor Glenn Youngkin of Virginia is going to be our speaker for the Silver Elephant Gala this year. We're looking forward to having him here. Has been obviously very, very productive in the state of Virginia, brings an experience at business, for one thing, and a level of commitment to conservative cause on top of that. He's spent a lot of time in his life supporting the conservative movement, and now, of course, is an elected official. And, we've got a lot of folks who are ready to hear from him and his experiences there in Virginia and how he's been able not just to govern, but, again, Virginia's a purple state, and he's been able to win as a Republican in a purple state, and that's something that people need to hear as well.
Yep. And you have to be a member of the Silver Elephant Club, and you can join and buy tickets, correct? If you're not already.
So the Silver Elephant Gala is a members-only event. So if you want to become a member, you can go to scgop.com, right there on the homepage, find the Elephant Club tab up at the top, and you can join. Whether you want to join annually or join by the month, that's fine. But everything that you contribute obviously stays right here in South Carolina to help elect Republicans up and down the ticket.
Yep. Again, that is scgop.com. Drew McKissick, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Have a good one now.
You too. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.